Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my 6-month post-wig experience. Post-no wig experience. Simply put, I haven't worn wigs in over 6 months. As someone who started wearing wigs as a teenager, this has been one freeing experience for me, self-intimacy experience for me, and I'm going to go all into it in a jiffy. However, I just want to say that I know that people can be sensitive a lot with topics like this, So let me put it forward as a disclaimer that this is not to get you to stop wearing wigs. I know that if that change is going to happen with the Black community, with women of color, it's not going to be me who's going to spare it. It's like, I know that. But just like I come here, share about my marriage, share about my, motherhood experience, and people are able to find some form of knowledge from it, I thought to share in case you've been thinking about it, or in case it's something that you recently experienced. I saw that there was this clip of Sarah Jakes Roberts who took off a wig when she was preaching, and it was just, a whole freeing experience for her and every other person who chose to follow suit. So without further ado, let us jump right into the video. So I am in my early 30s, and I think maybe it has to do with when you're 30 plus. I just got to a point where I started to ask myself deep questions about this thing that I'd been doing from a very long time. First, I'm going to talk about a few things I didn't even like, and I think why it was pretty easy for me to transition into the no wigs lifestyle at all. So the first thing I'm going to talk about would be the discomfort. Even though I had been wearing wigs from, like I said, pretty much when I was a teenager, I'd always found them uncomfortable. You see those bands, sometimes it's as though it wants to rip off your brain. Your medulla oblongata is screaming. And maybe it's the size of my head. I have a pretty big size of head. So sometimes to even find my wig size, sometimes it's difficult. And when I do find it, it's either slipping off sometimes or it's too tight, like I said, with the band. So the discomfort has always been something for me. One time, actually, the Holy Spirit just brought this to my remembrance. I struggled with, before my hair went natural, I struggled with alopecia at the back of my hair, and it was traced to wigs. And that was because of tight wig bands, right? No matter what I did, it just wasn't growing. All the oils in the world couldn't make it grow. Before I realized that the tightness that wigs brought to my head was what was, causing the stunted growth at the back of my head. So imagine the discomfort I was feeling every time I wear it, right? They would say, beauty is pain. Go on, rock it, girl. I just had to come to terms with, what? No, it's uncomfortable for me. I don't like it. So first thing is discomfort. Now that I'm here in my early 30s, honestly, why will I make myself uncomfortable? Recently, I think I even made another decision. I want to really sit on it, let it marinate, right, before I start talk about it. But anyway, just because I'm like, no, that's uncomfortable, I feel like questioning the things we do just brings about another level of self-love and, self-regard. So that's on discomfort. Next thing I'm going to talk about that I know that a lot of my sisters here can relate to is the convenience. Now, tell me why we always weave our hair, right, before we wear wigs. And sometimes those weaves are like as old as you are. Joking. But they're like, 2 weeks old, sometimes 4 weeks old. I know I had carried weaves for up to 5 weeks at some point because it was the traditional matting, and I thought, this would, stand the test of time, right? But the truth is, when you have like unexpected guests, or when you want to quickly go somewhere, you have to quickly put your wig on. That's just so inconvenient for me. See, the top of it is when we go on trips and, you want to take a picture in the morning. You see, just lounging, taking coffee in your pajamas in the morning. For the most part, people have their all back braids on. Even if it is neat, I feel like because that is not your intended outlook for that occasion, it still makes you feel some type of out of place. It's different. Like my recent trip to that's like a year ago. I'm due for another one. But when I went to Mexico with a couple of my girlfriends last year, I had my locks like this on, and it was just so easy breezy. Wake up in the morning, whatever you're doing, the look is the look. However, in the case of those who had wigs, it was hold on, I'm a grandma wig real quick before we can post this picture. I just thought that it was so inconvenient, and don't get me wrong, that was what I did for the longest time. I personally prefer to braid my hair while going on trips, again, just because the convenience, right? When you want to jump in the pool, can we talk about that? Like when you want to swim and obviously you can't soak your head. I remember last year we went to a water park here, and what was under my wig was old. It was like maybe 4 weeks old, and I didn't want to expose it in that public place, so I went under the water with the wig. At some point I had to ask myself, who are you fooling? So I just pulled it off, and just shamelessly rocked my natural hair. But I still felt like that was not the intended look, so this just felt wrong. Because again, if I wanted to braid my hair, nothing wrong with the braids, but if I wanted to braid it, maybe I would have accessorized it, made it the intended look. I would have gotten there with it, not like people are mistaking you for, why did you come here with that? And I'll get to that because that's a very valid point. But like I said, just the convenience. I remember one day I was running into my car in a parking lot. It was earlier this year, like February, and the wind was wild. Like as I was running, I could feel the breeze into my brain. My hair, my scalp. I loved it, right? And it just crossed my mind that, girl, if you had wigs on, you'd probably be struggling and holding on to dear life now so that it wouldn't like fly off. I remember my son threw something up in the air, a piece of paper, and it was just gone. The wind was wild that day. And so those are just some of the inconvenient situations that I used to find myself, and I just said, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life, right? The funniest of it, cap of it is, guys, I am married folks business here. Like, you see, when you're making out with your husband, I always think about that look, because the truth is, for the most part, when you're in bed and you're about to either do or make love or whatever, your wig is off, right? At that ungodly hour. At that time of the night, your wig is off. Let's face it, right? I always used to feel so like, it's almost like, maybe it's the way I've grown up and I've seen people in bed, the movies we watch, at least you look prim and proper, hair is popping. And I just used to feel like every day this man just has one sight. This one sight, and it's not even a nice sight like this. It's like a very old mat underneath. Look, again, I am not coming for yours edges. This is something that is actually humorous, and don't forget it for years. So not judging anybody, I just want to always say that. It's just funny to me, like every time you're like, where I come from, we call it a kaite, because it's like the styles that nannies or babysitters or maids, are usually fond of doing. Just cornrow to the back, and sometimes it's that old. So I used to tell myself that your husband sees this kaite look all the time when you are in bed making out. But now, girl, like now that the locks are flourishing, I'm actually going to make another video talking about the pros of my locks, right? And all of the details of my locks. I'm locked now for 2 years, so I want to do that anniversary. And yeah, so that's that inconvenience. The next thing is the money spent on wigs. Wigs are expensive, like expensive. If you guys have seen my vlog where I shipped off all my wigs to my sisters, I was telling myself that, girl, this is like 2 million naira. Like, that's how much? Maybe like $1,500 just being sent like that on this. And I had like maybe just 4 wigs. In fact, I paid for 2 of them, if I remember. No, I sent 5. I paid for 2 of them. The others were like brand collaborations and stuff. It was just like ridiculous. So said that again, and I know the people who put brand influencing aside, they have like 10 wigs that they've paid for. That was the time I was making inquiries. Wigs were going into like 1 million naira. That's like about $700. You see people buy wigs for $1,500 USD, whatever. I was just like, I mean, if you have the money, it's your money. But I'm just like, wigs are expensive. Like, all that money to wear somebody's hair, somebody else's hair. Miss me with that. Miss me with that. So that's another thing, like, I'd always wondered, like, why do we look for money, invest so much in things that are this trivial, in my opinion. So yeah, the expense is just not expensing. And while we're on this, next thing I'm going to talk about is I schooled in the UK for my master's, and I felt like there was something about people asking me week on week, oh, is this your hair? And obviously, we Africans like to blame it on them. Like, dude, educate yourself. You see me in different hair, you see me in gold, you see me in black, and you're still asking if it's my hair. But the truth is, they're actually just ignorant. Like, I'm not putting it on us. Yes, they should educate themselves, but the truth is, it's also kind of our own undoing to ourselves. Like, I know people who are in very professional spaces will say that they keep their wigs to like just 2 looks, just so that the professors are not confused and they come off as unprofessional. Because I remember that during my staying in the UK, people would be asking me, oh, I like your hair, can I touch it? And I'm just here like, girl, that's a blonde person's hair. Or like, duh, how can my hair be straight this week when you saw that I had a coily one last week? So it was just funny to me then. However, what drove it on for me was one time I was seeing a movie with my husband, right? And there was this woman who was talking about like the comfort of rocking your own natural hair, like mixed race. Actually, she was of mixed race, so she had like this coily hair, but coily hair is different from curly hair. There's a like full long and stuff like that. So she was talking about like the comfort of rocking your hair and stuff like that. So my husband and I were having the conversation around this. We're on that conversation for almost 30 minutes talking about really like sometimes like we are asking for respect and some dignity as Africans, but don't we think that we're a joke to people sometimes when it's like, oh, but you're out here trying to look like us, right? And I said something that evening. I said, imagine that because where we were before I locked my hair too, I had wigs on, and people will still ask me the same question, or just look at my hair and just like cringe or smile. Some people are nasty about it. And I asked my husband, imagine that I see a totally white Canadian woman on Afro wig. I feel like that was when I understood the level of ridiculousness that I had been experiencing with people of like other like races prior to this time. Like, can you guys imagine it? Imagine you just like a totally white person. Obviously, we're used to their straight, colored hair, long hair. Imagine you just see someone like that who has like kinky, like legit Afro kinky wig on. Crickets, right? Crickets. So, and I know that we have normalized wigs and stuff and yada yada. I see a lot of controversy on it these days on the gram and stuff, TikTok, but we're not ready for that conversation. Let me just tell you, like, it takes a lot. Like, I didn't just get here overnight talking about these things like this. Nah, I didn't just get here overnight, because it's easier to want to maintain the standard of beauty. Like, I am in the public space, I work with brands, I should always want to look pam pam pam. And maybe this was what my struggle with acne over the years did to me, where I'm like, you have to love yourself. Like, you have to love the real version of you. Because imagine over the years that every time I wanted to show up, I needed to conceal to the uttermost, right? And it's not like I even like makeup 100% like that, right? Putting powder on my face every day is not actually my vibe. So imagine that while dealing with acne, I didn't do all those vlogs. I wasn't free in myself, in my natural face, right? I would have been in bondage. So I feel like I forgot my line of thought, but yeah, you guys get the picture. That's it. So I talked about being expensive, and I just talked about just like, I feel like the perception and the way it's kind of ridiculous, right, to other people. It's our undoing at the end of the day. Yeah, let's face it. So with all that being said, what then do I miss about wearing wigs? Like, yes, you didn't like all those, but what then do you miss? Truth be told, I miss nothing. Absolutely nothing. I feel like for me, it's not a case of the pros, the cons outweigh the pros. There's really no pro for me. Now, I know that what people feel like they're giving away is the ability to have different looks and stuff. Maybe why I don't miss it is because, number one, my locks are now at a stage where I can style it if I want, right? But I think why I don't miss that is because I have done the inner work to understand that even primarily I had no business here in the first place, right? If I'm holding on to it in a way is when I will still be missing, oh, but I can have this look and have this look and, you know, slay this look like this and stuff. I feel like I'm more beautiful in my locks. And I feel like now I'm talking about the things that I love about wearing my locks. Like I said, I'll make a more detailed video about like the budgeting, the finances of locks, the maintenance and stuff like that. But just on the surface, I feel free in wearing my hair like this. The money I pay to retighten, because that's always another conversation. Oh, retightening every time it's expensive. When you compare to how much you were, I mean, if you were taking care, my loctician said this to me, if you were taking care of your hair normally and you didn't used to keep one braid in for 4 months, then this will make more sense to you financially. But it's people who used to have like their braids in for 4 months who will now say, so retightening every 6 to 8 weeks, now I'll pass, you know. But for someone who used to spend money on wigs and braids, this is way cheaper, right? And beyond being cheaper is the fact that it's an investment that I can see. I'm going to put a picture here from when my locks were just growing and I had to cut off the colored ends and things like that. It was shorter. Now all that money spent, I can see it. I'm excited, if Jesus tarries, for when I'm 40 and these locks are like, I don't even know, maybe waist level, right? Like, And for the record, my daughter is locked as well, which is another thing I really love about wearing my locks. I feel like I was contradicting myself when I would say, oh, you know, your hair is beautiful, but I go on and I cover mine up. Again, these are conversations people don't want to have, and that's okay. Like, some people will still argue that, oh, but that's the same thing with makeup when you wear it. But for me, this is at least one part that I have found my freedom. And don't forget, I'm not here to impose it on you. I'm just sharing my experience, right? But yeah, I just didn't want that to happen. So this is like a case of even modeling it, and I really love that too. Like with my locks, she says, oh, we're twins, you know, so we kind of like, she says that I'm happy with my natural hair, which is what I want her to be as well. What else? Questions. When people say I love your hair, I'm like, thanks. And I get that a lot. Like, I think even way more than when I used to have wigs on. Then people would just question, oh, is this your hair? Like inquisitiveness, if that's a word. But now it's just like the appreciation, the beauty of it is what I get the most of, and I'm here for it. So that's it. If in any way, shape or form you want to also lock your hair, honestly, do it. I know that our hair in its natural state is very difficult to maintain, and that's why I just like, you know what, let's lock it. Because my hair had reached a point where it wasn't growing again. My natural hair was breaking. Blame it on postpartum breakage in between and stuff, but I just wasn't feeling just the coiling, forcing natural hair anymore. So this is giving my head the chance to keep going and stuff. But like I said, I will do a whole detailed video about my looks and all that good stuff. But thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Subscribe. Bye.
Whenever your heart is broken.